Filmmaking is not about how much money you make. We tend to talk about our revenue, about the clients that we work with, the brands that we work with, but at the end of the day, the most important part is the art of filmmaking. It's about being proud of what you're producing. And yes, the clients and the money, it helps, but for me at least, it's mostly about the validation of me being good at what I'm doing. So for me, the clients or the brands that I worked with, they have served as kind of a confirmation that I am a good filmmaker, I know what I'm doing, and people like what I'm creating. My name is Kristian Warwick. I'm a full-time filmmaker and photographer based in Oslo, Norway. And I do this for a living, and I love my job. So number one is passion. The passion kind of lays the foundation for everything that you do as a creative. I remember back when I first started in 2018, I spent 10 to 12 hours, maybe even more, every day trying to learn the software, trying to learn how to work with a camera. And if I didn't have this passion, I wouldn't really feel like doing it. I wouldn't be motivated or inspired. So if you don't feel like you're passionate about what you're doing, I think that that's a good sign, or that's your answer in terms of whether you should be a filmmaker or not. I think that with that passion comes that excitement to learn new things, that excitement to just understand new things and produce things that you want to produce. I am certain that if it wasn't for my passion for filmmaking and the creative field, I would not have been where I am today. Number two is storytelling. And storytelling is the most crucial part about filmmaking, right? We hear a lot about this, and honestly, it's not as complicated as it might sound like. So picture yourself going to a coffee shop, you meet with a friend, and you're gonna tell him or her about what has happened in your life lately. Use my feature documentary about the Boston Marathon 2025 as an example. So in this story, I had my journey towards Boston Marathon on the one side, and then on the other, I had my life, or like dealing with anxiety throughout my whole life, on the other. And I could easily tell this story to my friend at this coffee shop, and I would be able to tell this person the story, and he or she would understand what I was talking about. With filmmaking, you kind of have to be sure that you grab the attention of the viewer, so you have to build it up a bit differently. You have to look at what can I do in this film or in this story to make sure that people get curious, people want to finish watching it, and what can I do to make sure that people feel like it's not too dramatic, but it still needs to be a bit dramatic because people tend to like when there's some drama. So making people curious, making them kind of doubt that you will make it, or be worried about what's gonna happen next, or at least curious about what's gonna happen next, that is important. And then there are a lot of ways to do this. Obviously, you have the interviews, the things that people are saying, but you can also use effects like different frame rates just to make it seem more or less busy, handheld versus gimbals, things that might seem super technical, but are actually a crucial part in your storytelling. So for me, at least, the day when I realized that storytelling was something that I was good at and that I could utilize, that's when I felt like I went from a videographer to a filmmaker. And we're gonna talk more about going from a videographer to filmmaker when it comes to sound design and lighting later in this video. But a lot of us, we tend to, or we might have heard about how you do this building of the story, right? Like from home, away to home, all of these things. But I don't think that's enough to actually understand filmmaking. You need to understand people. So a big part of being a filmmaker and telling good stories is actually about having empathy and being able to put yourself in the viewer's situation and understand why this story can or could potentially change their lives. Number three is sound design, and I'm just going to continue talking about storytelling here because the sound design is maybe one of the most crucial parts of your storytelling. I've been talking about Musicbed on this channel before. I'm friends of the brand, and I love the music that they have. And I've been very upfront on this, and that is that I had different offers from different music providers to work with, but I chose Musicbed just because I feel like they have the best music out there. For a very long time, though, I felt a little bad because they didn't really have any sound effects, and some of their competitors they did. But now finally they have sound effects, and I love that they have added this feature. They're rolling it out these days, and you can try it out. And if you hit the link down below, you can get a free trial of Musicbed. And I really recommend using that. I do think personally, and I've been thinking about this over the last couple of weeks, that even though Musicbed might be a tiny little bit more expensive than the other suppliers or providers, I think that it's worth the investment just because it will enhance your films. That is just my honest opinion. And yes, it's an affiliated link, but I would have said this to anyone, even if I wasn't friends of the brand. So I hope you believe me on this. Anyways, using sound effects in my videos has been such a game changer. The sky, nature, is peaceful. Why can't everything be like this? Why can't the world be like this? I need to escape. I ride my bike. It takes me to the peaceful world that I want. The one I need. Alone on the road. Alone in the woods. Just me and my heartbeat. And then I realize, when I'm out here, in this very moment, my life is peaceful. My life is good. And this is me. For years, I didn't use it at all, and I didn't really understand that the music always was missing something. And obviously with documentaries, you might not have a lot of sound effects to add in terms of footsteps and stuff, because you want to have the situations that you're filming to be more real and raw from what you're actually filming. But sometimes you might not be able to capture good audio, and then it's great to be able to add things like running or rain or city ambience, things that are really essential to kind of creating the mood and showing or letting your viewers see where you are. Like, where are we right now? We're in New York City. Okay, that makes sense because I can hear that there's city ambience. So obviously, this is not rocket science. I think that a lot of filmmakers know that sound design is very important. But then you have the parts where you are timing your music or you're timing your sound effects, whether that is with a whoosh or anything like that, just to create that more dramatic feeling. It could also be used as kind of a reverse hit, just to get this feeling that, okay, it stopped here and it's more powerful. You know, there are so many ways of using sound design, and one of my favorite creatives when it comes to sound design is Danny Gewirtz. I've learned so much from him. He's been such a big influence on my career as a filmmaker. Another thing that I learned from Danny, and now we're at number 4, I guess, that is lighting. So I want to talk about going from a videographer to a filmmaker. We already talked about storytelling, about sound design, all of that. But it wasn't until I understood lighting that I felt like I could call myself a proper filmmaker. Because for years, I really wanted to create that look that you feel like you get on Netflix, you know, like those fancy documentaries or those fancy scenes where you feel like it's so different than what I'm able to make with my phone or even with my camera at home. And so when I started out, I think I always thought about getting a great camera, the most expensive camera, although that was not something I was able to do. That was my dream. If I was to start over again today, I would get a cheaper camera, but invest in lights. Because lighting something, making it look good, is kind of everything to get that professional look. So in terms of the business part of it, I was able to get new clients, different clients. I was able to charge more, all of that just because I understood the basics of lighting. And what's also cool is that lighting is definitely a part of the storytelling. So the way you light something, whether it's super contrasty or it's super bright, will say something about the mood you're going for. You will see in a lot of crime documentaries that it's super dark, moody, just because that's more mysterious. You want to create that vibe. And with the lighting, obviously also comes in some ways that the framing, and some people will probably say that this should have been its own thing, but I still feel like the way you are framing something and the way you are shaping the light has everything to do with your storytelling, but also in terms of how professional it looks. So understanding lighting, understanding the sound design is key to understanding filmmaking, and also from going from videographer to filmmaker. Number 5, the last one. I want to emphasize this, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about this, but understanding people, like working with people. Unless you are always filming cars, which is probably not going to be within the filmmaking field, you have to deal with people. You have to interview them. You have to ask the right questions. You have to make them feel comfortable. You have to make them feel at home. I think that this is honestly the biggest or the best skill that I have as a filmmaker. It's definitely a soft skill. It's not about how to operate your camera or how to light something. It's all about making the person in front of the camera feel comfortable and feel okay talking to you. Because if they are tense, if they don't feel like they can be themselves or feel relaxed around you or in front of the camera, and let's face it, lights, big cameras, microphones, it can be scary, right? So how do you make a person who's pretty intimidated from the get-go feel good? That is something that honestly can be hard to be taught, but understanding that this is crucial, I think, is so important when it comes to being a filmmaker. So after 7 years of being first a videographer and now a filmmaker, and having made my first feature documentary and working full-time as a filmmaker, these are the things that I would have told any friends of mine who just started out as filmmakers or wanted to be a filmmaker. I think that we tend to overemphasize things that are not as important when it comes to just getting there, and I think that it doesn't necessarily need to take that long from buying your first camera to you being a filmmaker and creating things that you can be super proud of and that will blow people's minds. So I hope that this helped you. I hope that you understand more of how you can become a filmmaker and also more about the process. Obviously, if you want to learn more about the specifics of camera operating, like frame rates and all of that, you can find that on YouTube. You can find some of that on my channel too. I do recommend watching Danny Gewertz for a lot of the technical things. But when it comes to understanding filmmaking and understanding the business of it, I do feel like I've learned how to do that, and I think that I have something to contribute with. So thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and have a good one.